He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is the Alex Marlow Show.
All right, welcome to the Marlow Show. Glad to be back. My usual studio confines today. We had a couple of good shows while I was gone on my little trip in Las Vegas, Nevada. I did end up gambling, and I did keep my winning streak alive. So I'm on a winning streak. So I played a lot of poker growing up and into my 20s, and I have not lost since Master Marlow was born almost 7 years ago in any live poker in the casino. You want to know why? Because I've cut it down to about once a year. That's all I get in. Because here's the thing, I don't have a lot of free time. And then when I do have free time, I generally try to spend it outside or sleeping. That's basically it. It's become most of my free time. But back when I had time to dedicate brain power towards gambling, then that'd be it. I'm not, I don't do any gambling of just games of chance. I didn't play one blackjack, no roulette, no craps, because I know that's essentially just a tax on people who can't do math. Because over time, you're going to lose money doing that unless you can count cards or something, or you're some sort of a wizard. And these sports betting guys are so into it. I mean, all these people are going bankrupt. Very addictive, very, very addictive stuff. So I confined it to the live poker, but it was not a big win. I had slowly chipped away. I had played pretty nicely. I'd slowly chipped away into my stack, and then I blew most of it on a pretty marginal hand, not particularly well played. But yeah, I got the dub, not the dub. A lot of entertainment. It's stimulating, though. You don't want to go to sleep afterwards, so I can't do it all the time to get a bunch of kids and a bunch of jobs. But fun times, and ridiculously affordable if you don't lose money gambling or spend too much in the stores. So anyway, we had a good time. But the most important thing for this audience is I think my Monday show is very important, where I did an emergency broadcast talking about LA. We'll get to that in a second. And my episode with Dr. Drew yesterday was fantastic. Driving back, listening to it with Mrs. Dr. Marlow, I think even she learned a lot, and she knows a lot about medicine, cutting edge. So there's good stuff. And if those of you missed that, we talk a lot of MAHA, a lot of supplements, what's real, what's not, pharma, what to do about pharma, COVID, the vax, what's going on in our bodies right now that we're all rewired by the virus. So all that's in yesterday's show. Today's show, what I'm going to do, normally when I have a guest, I tend to monologue first and then throw it to the guest, but I feel like I want to get Senator Markwayne Mullin in now. So we just taped with him right before I'm doing this intro. So I'm going to throw it to Markwayne Mullin, Senator from Oklahoma. We're going to talk LA riots. We're going to talk the big, beautiful bill, the BBB, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to roll through the rest of the news with you. So let's get into it. This is a moment of deep economic chaos. No one knows really what the future is for the big, beautiful bill. No one knows what the future is for tariffs, China tariffs. So many of America's biggest companies are seeing wild swings that are just completely inconsistent. The hedge against the wild times we're in is gold. And if you had bought gold, when I started to recommend my friends at Priority Gold, you would have made a ton of money. I'm just looking at the data right now. We're talking about year to date, gold is up 25.4% as I'm doing this recording. Over the last year, gold's up 40%. That's a wild return. That's an absolutely wild return. I was just doing TV with Steve Moore, and he was talking about the price of gold and how it's really, really high right now. And it crested over $3,400 an ounce just this week. I've got the best partners in the game at Priority Gold. If you text the word freedom to the number 24999, or you go to prioritygold.com/freedom, they will get you a free gold and silver guide. They will help personalize a package for you so that you can start buying your own gold. You can do a gold 401k, a gold IRA. They have so many options for you, and they will help you. They will get on the line with you and tailor a strategy just for you. But you got to go to prioritygold.com/freedom or text the word freedom to 24999. These are great partners to be in business with at a moment where gold is red hot. It's gold hot right now. All right, check them out, prioritygold.com/freedom. All right, great to have Senator Markwayne Mullin of Oklahoma on the Alex Marlow Show today. Senator, it's been too long. Thank you so much for catching up with me. A lot to do. Mostly I reached out because I wanted to talk about the big, beautiful bill with you, where you're sort of almost the president's liaison to the whole Congress. So I'm sure you're going to have a lot of insight there. But I got to start with my hometown of Los Angeles, which is the illegal alien invasion of this city took place decades ago, and we've just acted like it was okay until this point. All of a sudden, Trump and Stephen Miller and Tom Homan woke up one day and decided it's not okay. And I'm sitting around here thinking, good, like, where was this attitude 20 years ago? We could have saved this city. And yet somehow you see some people on the left who are acting as though Trump is the one who's being outrageous here. What's your perspective? And in particular, you're already in a spat with Governor Newsom, with Gavin, the governor of our state, Newsom, over this. Tell me about that.
Well, first of all, the governor is just a weak governor that's trying to run for president, and it's ridiculous. I hate guys that pretend to be a tough guy that show absolutely no spine. Just because you have a mouth on you and you can smile in front of a camera and you can talk big doesn't mean you can back it up. And the proof's in the pudding. You can look at his record, right? 3 million people have left the state of California since he's been governor. You guys are, and I'm sorry to say this, but California, so I'll leave you out of it, Alex, but the state of California is #1 in murders, and they don't even report all the sectors for their state. We were trying to figure out the numbers of sectors that don't report any crime at all to the state, but yet they're still #1. They're #1 in the high cost of living, #1 in the cost of energy. They're #1 in sanctuary cities, #1 in homeless population, #1 in illegal aliens calling California home. And they have the #1 crime rated state in the country. So he's proven he's really good at being #1, and that is sucking at being governor. And yet, for some reason, this guy thinks he's going to be able to be president. Think about that, Alex. Yeah. He's the only one that could possibly make Biden look good as president.
Yeah, he's been a terrible leader of this state, and he's been relevant in California politics for as long as I've been paying attention, which is going on 20 years here. And he's getting no track record. But I want to take on some of his arguments quickly. Sure. One of them is he says that the murder rate in Oklahoma is higher than in California. I know part of this is because they simply stop reporting crimes. If you don't enforce crimes, you don't have crimes. Like that's one of you have to enforce the law in order for, and the crime rate goes up. That's one of his tricks. But what other responses do you have to this? And I like to do this for audience members who have to debate with family and friends.
So we fact checked him on that, and actually it's not true. Oklahoma is not even in the top 20. On murders in the state, and as I said, California is #1. When we started looking at the 40,000 that he was saying, we started looking at that, and I was like, no. So just for the fact, we just started thinking, well, let's pull this up, and I called the governor's office. We called OSBI. Which is they inspect every murder in the state, they're over. And they're like, I have no idea where that number's coming from. He just pulled this fake number out, and he expects people to believe it. It's kind of like what he said, and I just want to use this, just how he is such a liar. And I mean this sincerely, and I have no problem if he was in front of me, I'd still call him a liar. Yesterday, when he was doing his disastrous news conference, right? I'm on a different show, and I'm actually going to react to it. And he goes out and he says that President Trump escalated it by sending out the National Guard, and he said it's a threat on our democracy. But yet, what he forgot was that the police chief of L.A. came out and said that he was overwhelmed and he needed assistance. Gavin Newsom, the governor, refused to act. So what the president did is he federalized the National Guard and sent the National Guard in to help him because the governor refused to act. That's the same thing that Eisenhower did in '57. It's the same thing that JFK did in '62 and '63. And it's the same thing that LBJ did in '65. When the governors refused to act, they refused to just take care of basic rule of law and civil rights, that the president has the authority to stand up and federalize the National Guard and take some relief off the local police department. So, and then he also goes on and says that the president is celebrating his birthday by spending millions of dollars and forcing the military to celebrate his birthday by having a parade in Washington, D.C. And that's June 14th. That's this Saturday. What he also forgot to say is, one, it's also my anniversary, which I know that's why they're doing it, but it's also the birthday of the Army, and it's also Flag Day. I mean, forget about the details. Gavin refuses to use a detail. He just has a narrative in his head that he wants to make himself look like, I don't know, presidential.
Yeah, right. And so what's going on here, and I'm going to share a deeper thought on this with the audience later in the show, but I think that what the left does is they have to, first of all, Trump is always wrong. No matter what Trump does, it has to be wrong. And the other thing is, if they decide Trump is right on this particular issue, which Trump is, then that is a referendum on their own worldview for the last 3 decades plus in the state, where they've allowed for this culture to take hold, where illegal immigration is just tolerated, it's promoted, and it's openly part of the city's fabric. And it's not gone well in any measure. Education, healthcare, crime, it's all gone up. It's all gotten worse. Balkanization, culture's weaker. All of this is due to this illegal immigration phenomenon. But for them to say that, yeah, it's time to clean it up would be an admission of failure. So they're never going to do this. And that's really what I think this is all about, is they can't admit that they were wrong.
Yes. Well, no, they can't. They can't back up, because if they did, then they'd have to admit that Trump is right. And remember, Trump bad, I good. That's the way the Democrats look at this. That's it. And so if they were to actually say, hey, we need your help, then Gavin would have to admit that he's actually an awful governor and his policies have been wrong. And by the way, to say that he's the #1 worst governor in the country, that's a high bar. Because
really high bar.
Remember, we butt up against, our panhandle butts up against Colorado. And Jerry Polis out there is a pretty bad governor. To say that Gavin's worse than Jerry, that's that's fighting for the bottom of the barrel there.
Yeah, so many bad governors in this country at the time. And I've got some of the audio that you mentioned. I'll play some of that later, but I don't want to spend all of our time on it. But I'll play that for the audience, those of you who want to hear those clips. So what's your message to Governor Newsom today?
Do your job. It's not about politics at this point. Do your job. You need to be able to protect your constituents in your state. Be a leader for the first time. Stand up and move forward. I tell people all the time, I've hired thousands of employees, and I've never fired a single employee for making a mistake. I have fired a lot of employees when they can't admit they made a mistake. Because if you can't admit you ever made a mistake, you're never going to learn. If you can admit you made a mistake, hey, we can move on. From that point, you can learn, go on, let's get better. Since he can't do that, then they really do need to be thinking about firing Gavin as the governor, because he has a chance right now to stand up and show true leadership like President Trump is. President Trump is leading from the front. Do you think L.A. voted for him? I mean, the state of California didn't vote for him.
No.
Does President Trump care about that? No. President Trump has made it very clear, even when he was campaigning, he wanted to bring the law and order even to the lawless cities. In L.A., Chicago, these areas, he's made a focus. Not because he's trying to win their vote, because he's probably never going to. It's because he's a leader, and that's what leaders do. Leaders do what is right, regardless of the situation.
Okay, so I want to move to Big Beautiful Bill, because you are really almost the White House's liaison to the Senate in this regard. Just give us your 30,000 foot on where we are right now.
It's going to pass. We're going through the process. We've got a 2-hour meeting coming up here in about an hour. The House did a really good job, sent us a really good framework. They really did. I mean, it's not exactly what we would do or we can do, because the House doesn't have to deal with the Byrd Rule. The Byrd Rule only applies to the Senate. And what the Byrd Rule does is, since it's a privileged act essentially, and it's a way for us to do appropriations without having to have 60. This is the one we can have the simple majority of 51. It's narrow in the window, so we can't have any policy in it. It can only deal with mandatory spending and taxes. Since the House,
so this is crucial. I got a lot of tax questions, but the mandatory spending is big, because a lot of people, I think, in conservative audiences are a little bit confused about codifying Doge cuts, which we all want to do, and we should do as much as possible. But that's not all done in budget reconciliation. Most
of it is done through the appropriation process, which only deals with discretionary spending, which is what we talk about every single year when we're doing big omni bills, or we're doing a CR, continuing resolution. That's discretionary spending, and that's where most of the Doge is, because that's where almost all your agencies. So Department of Labor, Department of Energy, Department of Interior, EPA, IRS, Department of Defense, they're all in discretionary spending, and Doge was going into those agencies. So the Doge cuts will be applied to the budget appropriation process, which we're doing simultaneously. But that's a 60 vote threshold, what we have to have there. Reconciliation is 51. That's why the window is narrow. That's why we can't do everything that people's want to throw in. Now, the House can do a lot of it, but we can't, so it gets kicked out. So what I mean by that is the House sent us a very good framework. We have to go in there and maybe redecorate some of the interior rooms, and we may repaint the walls. But the framework was solid. Speaker Johnson's done a good job working with Leader Thune and working with the White House while the House was trying to get to it. We're going to pass a bill. It's going to get 51. We may not get 54, but we're going to get 51 on it. It may take Vice President Vance to come here and cast the 51st vote, but we're going to get it, send it back to the House, and we think this can be done hopefully by July 4th. I feel like we're in that path. We're real close from getting this thing done.
Okay, so I think you're right that it's going to pass. So the question is, what are the major holdups? And there's a lot of people acting very strident in the press, like we can't reach them, we can't get through to them. I'm thinking Rand Paul in particular on the Senate side, Thomas Massie on the House side. I don't know if he's salvageable. Paul has indicated maybe he is under the right circumstances. What do you think it's going to take to get Senator Paul on board?
So Rand Paul, his deal, I think he could support the bill. I mean, he says he could. He says he could support the bill the way that it is if you took off the debt limit increase. Okay, that sounds simple. The problem is if you take the debt limit increase, you're going to have to raise the debt. You know, President Trump didn't create this mess. The Biden administration created this mess. We have to clean it up. This is like buying a failing company and thinking it's going to be profitable from the first day you buy it and it's going to pay its own bills. No, that's why you get a business loan. A business loan allows you, because you have a path to actually get financially stable, but you have to borrow money to get to a point. We feel like we can balance a budget if we continue to move forward and we can win the midterm elections. We can balance a budget for the first time since 97. The trajectories are where we're headed with the cuts, with the job growth, with the GDP increase. We feel like we can get there. But in the meantime, we got to borrow the money. If we don't borrow the money on the reconciliation, which is a privileged motion for us to be able to have only 51 votes, it will take 60. This is the only vehicle we have to do it on. Or we have to negotiate with the Democrats. If we negotiate with the Democrats, we've got to give away the keys to the White House. I mean, they're going to extract everything from us. As President Trump says, the debt limit is holding him hostage. And this is the only opportunity we have to get away from having to negotiate with the Democrats and raise the debt limit. So Rand is wanting to remove it. We're not going to do it. We're just not. And he has to realize that. And that's a sticking point. There's two other sticking points. SALT. SALT doesn't apply to any Senate members. I mean, we don't have anybody from New York. We don't have anybody from the blue state in our conference. But it's vitally important to 5 members in the House, and those 5 members are the majority makers. They got thin majority over there. Over here, they're wanting to strip it out, which is a $350 billion savings. Quite frank, if you were to do that, and that would go straight to deficit. However, this is where negotiations come in. If we do it, it won't pass the House. So we can pass it here, but if it doesn't pass the House, it doesn't mean anything. So we're having to, that's a sticky point. We have to make sure that we don't mess with that too much and run people off where it can't pass. Because even though we get 51 here, remember, it has to go back to the House to pass too. Even though they pass it once, we're amending it. And then the other point is we can't go below 1.6 trillion in deficit spending. I don't think, or deficit cuts, I mean. I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're going to actually have higher deficit cuts. But those are the 3 sticking points that we've got to get past, and that's just us getting into a room, talking it out, and finally getting to a good position.
So what do you do if you're one of these senators where you know that the thing has got to pass, because if it doesn't, biggest tax hike in American history, and no more ICE enforcement or no increased ICE enforcement, ICE detentions, deportations, all that stuff that's in the bill that everyone doesn't just like. We need it. So they don't really have as many they're acting like they're holding you guys hostage, but I don't really feel like that's the case.
Well, you have the Democrat senators, let them do what they want to. Republican senators, we have a choice. When we present this bill to the floor, which we're going to present it to the floor, you have 2 choices. You don't have A, B, or C. You have 2 choices at this point. We've all known since November we're doing a reconciliation package. Since November, we have been talking about it up here. Since November, there's been great ideas, and everybody's idea is honestly to make the bill better. The problem is every time you have an idea, it may affect somebody else over here. So you're constantly kind of negotiating back and forth. When your idea is your idea, your job is to get 51 votes on it. If your idea can't get 51 votes, then it's just an idea. And so it's your job to deliver your idea to the House or to the bill. And if you can't do that, then that's nobody's fault. And it's not your fault either, but just not everybody agreed with you. When the bill comes to the floor and we vote on it, negotiations are over. We put the best bill that we feel like we can pass on the floor. And so you have two choices, not three. You have two. You vote for the bill and move towards the Trump era policies and get away from the Biden administration's policies, or you say, hey, I'm going to vote no because I would rather stay in the exact same path we're in right now with the Biden administration's policies. Oh. Those are your two choices because negotiations are taking place prior to the floor. So all these people that are going to say no, they had those choices. Stay put with Biden administration or move forward with Trump administrations. A or B, there is no C.
Okay, so one thing that's for some reason moving is the no tax on tips. Seems like that's getting a lot of discussion on whether or not Chamber of Commerce types want to expire, which again, that just puts us in line for a massive tax hike down the road if that did expire. Lindsey Graham was suggested saying perhaps that it could show up later in a bill. I totally see the logic of no tax on tips not working, but from a political standpoint, it's the single most popular provision in the whole thing. So how could that go anywhere?
Well,
and will it?
No, we're going to have no tax on tips. Here's the thing. I mean, we know politics, Alex.
Yes.
We're going to put it on there, and it'll probably be expired. The reason why it's got to expire is because it's a huge pay for. I mean, that's a huge deficit.
Yeah.
However, we're going to put an expiration on it. Do you really think it's ever going to expire?
I don't. No.
I don't care if the Democrats or Republicans are in charge. Who's going to say, hey, look, we're going to start taxing tips again?
Yeah.
Because these tips are the ones, these people that are working for tips are usually the ones that are struggling and working the hardest to try to make ends meet. And so you're going to tax that population base? Not a chance. So even if it expires, you might as well say it's going to be permanent. It's just a budget gimmick is all that is.
Okay, so what other things you want to message? Because I know you're very good on social media and you got a big following there. It feels like the social media right is more skeptical in the bill than I am. I try to, but I got a contrarian streak, so I try to really chart my own course. And I've been telling the audience, I mean, most of this thing looks pretty dang good to me, but it's a lot of the grassroots for some reason are not satisfied with it. Do you have a message to that crowd right now?
Yeah, we can't allow perfect to be the enemy of good. This is not a perfect bill, but it's moving us in the right direction. And as I said just a while ago, our choices are to make this bill as good as we can possibly get it, bring it to the floor, move into the Trump era, or stay put in a Biden administration. As of right now, we're all fighting to make it the best bill we can. We still got to pass it, and whatever can pass is what we're going to put on the floor. So be engaged. Nothing wrong with being engaged. Nothing wrong with letting your opinion heard. But at the end of the day, we've got to get 51 on it.
I know you might have a different answer in a couple hours to get your big meeting, but what's the timeline that we're looking at? So
the timeline right now, because of Juneteenth next week, it's a federal holiday. So we have to, we're only going to be in next week, really about 3 days. So we're reporting all the language out of the committee. That's a term, but all the committees have certain writing policies and they're instructed on how much they can spend or how much deficit they got to cut. All that reporting language needs to be out of the committee by next Wednesday. And then we're going to have to build the bill, got to make it, put all the language together. We're hoping to report the language as a whole a week from Monday, which would be, I think, the 23rd. And then hopefully be able to start the vote-a-rama because we have to have a vote-a-rama on it. Mm-hmm. We would love to do the vote-a-rama as soon as possible. It's looking like we could possibly start on the 26th and on the 27th, or start on the 27th, which is a Friday, and end on the 28th. But that's our goal right now. And then we would kick it to the House, and the House would I think the House has a 72-hour rule that they've got to set on it. And they would be able to vote on it before the 4th of July.
Senator Markwayne Mullin from Oklahoma. You could go to his X account, and he's got a good link tree there, so you can follow anything that he's doing, find all of his socials. It's just at Sen Mullin, so it couldn't be easier than that. I think that's got to be the easiest way to get to you, right, Senator?
That's right. Yes, absolutely. And it's not S-I-N, it's S-E-N, Mullin.
Right. Yeah, right. Very funny. Senator Markwayne Mullin, I really appreciate the time. Let's check in again and keep up the good work.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right. So, yeah, it was hard to stay away because of all the L.A. riot stuff, the big, beautiful bill stuff. I don't have anything beyond what the senator presented. So we'll continue to hear more. I'm sure I'll get some details from the meeting that he referenced. But the L.A. riot stuff is just, it's unbelievable to witness, particularly for me, because the nature of LA is it was ruined by illegal immigration such a long time ago in so many ways. And these are the main ways that I look at it. First of all, the school system. When you started to realize, and I did this when I was an intern for Larry Elder, which was almost 20 years ago, when this first dawned on me how expensive LA's public schools were. And they were actually more expensive than private schools, way more expensive than Catholic schools in the same area, even though a lot of them look like prisons. The test scores are perpetually going down. Everyone they're very crowded. They're not great. They're just not. An LA Unified School District, the main school district, not usable. But yet per pupil, everything's so expensive. And a lot of it is just typical bureaucratic administrative costs, teachers unions driving up prices. But a lot of it is very expensive to educate people who don't speak English or bilingual, and from populations where there is not the same where there are complications, and whether it be the home life, language, resources, it makes it very expensive for the state to do that. And so that was really the missing piece beyond the unions, which of course are, and should be intolerable to Americans, the teachers unions, and what they do to our school system. But legal immigration made LA schools so that you could barely use them, where it was parents will move heaven and earth to get their kids into private schools. It's part of the reason why LA private schools are so expensive and they're so crowded, because people feel like that to meet their standards, there's no way they can use the public school system, and a lot of it has to do with illegal immigrants whose kids are here, or they came in as illegal immigrants themselves, and they're not turned away. And I don't say this as a humanitarian thing. A lot of this has to do with the elites, the people who run the city, the people who've run the state. They've allowed for this subculture to come in to do slave labor, essentially, be the gardeners, be the nannies, and do some of these menial jobs. And that would drive down the wages of Americans, so that Americans wouldn't do them, but it helps the bottom line of the people who can afford it. And that's the culture that's been created here. It's created a lot of balkanization, neighborhoods where you don't speak English, people who lived here decades, never speak English, never learn the language. And all of this comes from the culture that's been here for a very long time, where illegal immigration isn't just tolerated. It's a desirable thing. It's embraced by the community. The healthcare system, just beyond belief. It's Mrs. Dr. Marlow works at a community hospital in an area of LA where there's a lot of Hispanic population. And a lot of her patients were illegal aliens. And you could get bone marrow transplants as an illegal alien, which costs $700,000. $700,000 for these things. You're not turned away just because you're an illegal alien. That cost is passed on to the hospitals, the insurance providers, the taxpayers, the citizens, everyone else. So because they're not they're not insured, they're not in the system. They're not going to be able to pay even a fraction of what it costs for these procedures. And yet, because the humanitarian thing to do is, once people are here, you get great care. You get an education. What's the alternative to giving people an education in the United States if they're here? Is you just let them run around on the street? That's not necessarily better, because we have no intention of deporting everyone until 20 minutes ago. So you're better off with them being in the school system and having a little bit of education. Of course, who does that hurt, though? That could hurt the citizens. So it's all complicated. It's all unnecessary. And it has to stop. It should have stopped 3 decades ago, but it should stop now. And I'm going to play some clips of Gavin Newsom, and I'll play some Maxine Waters. And over the week, we'll play Karen Bass. I don't think I have any Karen Bass today. But just note this. Whenever these people, these individuals, are announcing Donald Trump's the problem, all of the violence, all of the problems that are happening are a reaction to Trump and to ICE. No. All this is that they have to cover their own behinds. Because if they acknowledge that Trump is right, Stephen Miller's right, Tom Homan's right, and it is time to clean up the illegal immigration in this city and in the state of California, then that's an admission that their entire political careers, they've been wrong on one of the most fundamental issues, and in my opinion, the fundamental issue. Because I saw all those downstream effects when I was at the very grassroots level of the MAGA movement before Trump had even emerged. It was only a handful of us, and I'll miss important names, but Jeff Sessions' office, where the top guy there was Stephen Miller, Steve Bannon, of course, Nigel Farage, Laura Ingraham, Michael Savage. There's a handful of people who were there at the very beginning who were talking about certain issues, and one of the connective tissue was illegal immigration, and by extension, too much legal immigration, but really illegal immigration. Oh, Ann Coulter, of course, was in there. And people who were saying that if we don't get the border under control, we're not going to be able to have affordable health care. We're not going to have a usable school system. We're not going to have a culture, because if we're not preserving anything in America, if we're not preserving our homeland, if we don't believe that anything we stand for matters, then you just import everyone. So we don't think anything that we were doing here was worth saving. And that's a big admission, but the left has never asked to explain it in those ways. That if you're pro-illegal immigration, you're rejecting everything that America's been to this point. So it's deeply uncomfortable. But I'm used to talking about it because we've been talking about it since years before Trump came down that escalator. And then Trump came in and immediately said, well, they're not sending their best. And that was treated as an outrage. It was treated as racism. It was never about racism. It's that they're not sending their best. It's not doctors and lawyers. It's the end. Not to say lawyers are the best, but scientists. One thing that I was thinking about, because this is a point I want to get to in the broadcast today, is that how I follow a lot of people on social media who are really sort of LA-based cultural people. They're not seeing what the national Democrats are seeing. National Democrats, look at John Fetterman. Mark Halperin was saying his sources are saying national Democrats are deeply concerned about what's going on out in LA. They think this is going to continue. They don't have any momentum, but if they had it, this is not helping. And they're very doubtful the Democrats are going to get in the right course by 2026 or even 2028, because they're not running they're not running on national issues. And I'll tell you, out in Los Angeles, the people who are here would have you believe that you can gaslight the public into thinking this is really all Trump's fault. And Trump is just preying on brown people. And it's all rooted in racism. And he's the one who's harassing people and acting like a king. So I think the vast majority of the country, even Democrats, see that that's not the case, that illegal immigration stands for lawlessness, stands against America, it's anti-citizen, and is just not working. How is it going? Is LA getting better? Is California getting better? Of course, it's getting worse. And politically, for Republicans, there's a deep political imperative because, we lose all these congressional seats. I was just listening to Mike Cernovich talk about this. It's a great point. Is that the districting efforts that you include illegal aliens in a lot of the calculations for how many seats to allocate. So we lose all of these the political battles that are on the margins because there's so many illegal aliens in the country. And we have no idea how many there are. A lot of people are still citing studies from 30 years ago. So if we believe in law and order, if we believe in the concept of the citizen, if we believe that our schools and our hospitals are not going in the right direction, this stuff is necessary. It has to get done. And I'll tell you what I was thinking about. I think the illegal alien population that is here and really did want to just be a part of America and just did not want to wait in line, which is illegal and not to be condoned. But people just want to come in here and work, maybe send some money back home, and have their families benefit from America's freedom and our the healthcare and the schools, et cetera. They've got to be very unhappy about what's going on because all this is doing is drawing a lot of attention, and it's making people, I think, want a zero tolerance policy towards illegal immigration. And that's where I'm at. We should be completely intolerant of illegal immigration. Not to say we ever were very tolerant of it. At Breitbart, we weren't. But we've got to go to the zero tolerance mode. But out in LA, a lot of our influencer class right now, what they're doing is they're having you believe that it really is Trump's fault, and they're going to ride this thing. I got a clip. This is Jimmy Kimmel talking about it, who is an LA figure. He was an LA radio station guy and has been based in here for a long time, does a show out of here. But check this out.
You see here we have We have a full house tonight, as we always do here at our studio in Hollywood, which might be surprising for those of you in other parts of the country who have been watching cable news and believe this city is some kind of totalitarian hellscape right now. It most certainly is not. In fact, let's take a look outside, because I want you to see what it's like in Hollywood right now. You won't see this elsewhere on television. Not only is it not an apocalypse, they're having a Disney Pixar movie premiere right now for Elio, a movie about aliens. Don't tell Trump, he'll send the Green Berets in too. But I just want to say thank God for President Trump and the heroes at ICE for protecting us from these bloodthirsty fruit stand vendors spreading their dangerous pineapple chunks and mangoes with a squirt of lime all over the city. We are so grateful for what you have done. I'm very angry, I have to say. I cannot believe what's going on. I knew it was going to be bad. I did not know it was going to be this bad. People who have lived here their whole lives, people who've been in this city longer than I have, the vast majority of whom have never done anything wrong, are being abducted, which is the correct word to use, by agents in masks, hiding their identities, grabbing people off the street and at work, sending people to detention centers. And to protest that, which is not only our right as Americans, it's our responsibility, Los Angelinos have been gathering to demonstrate, and with very few exceptions, peacefully demonstrate to
Yeah, and you guys heard you watched all the videos I played on Monday's show where it was immediately violent. So this is the gaslighting that's taking place. It is not violent. These are all good people. They just sell mangoes on the side of the road. First of all, the mango sellers on the side of the road are not paying they're not paying taxes. So there's no one who's doing these mango carts of illegal aliens, which do pop up in LA, and they sell you overpriced fruit and then they don't pay taxes on it. Why is it okay? Do you guys get away with not paying your taxes? I don't care if you sell mangoes or if you sell cars or if you sell unfunny jokes to ABC. You got to pay taxes. So none of these people pay any taxes. So, and act like they're all saints when immediately Trump comes in and they start looting Apple stores, they start torching electric cars, and they start waving Mexican flags. So there was a tweet that I saw that I really couldn't believe that this was sent out, but this is from Alex Marlow, who is one of the best journalists in California, but kind of leans liberal. He wrote important context about Los Angeles. 99% of the city is not in chaos. We've seen some peaceful protests and some ugly, unacceptable instances of violence in small pockets of the region, but the overwhelming majority of the areas are not currently seeing similar scenes. It's one of these things where it's like, how much of New York was in chaos at 9/11? Was it 1%? So if you just fly a plane into a building, then yeah, it's only chaos at ground zero on Wall Street. So, but the rest of the city was doing fine that day. It's an absurd point. We should not have tolerance towards any sort of level of violence. We should not have any cars torched in America. We should not have Apple stores looted. I played that clip, that surreal clip. I think it was at local ABC saying that people were just enjoying the cars burning. Anyone who's listening to this show, I don't need to tell you any of this stuff. It's very obvious. But just they're trying to stretch and strain to act as though any of this is tolerable. And to act as though all the illegal aliens are happy. But I'll tell you, the guys who are doing the mango carts, they don't want any of these protests. You can bet on that. They would rather stay in the shadows. The shadows is a better place for them than what's going to happen now, because now they're going to get sunlight. And they don't want sunlight. And there's going to be a lot of normal people who are going to feel like, well, if you're going to just defend all the violence, then deport them all. Not to mention my point about how there will now be more discussions about how illegal aliens ruin the schools, illegal aliens are making the healthcare more expensive. And another crucial point, any illegal alien criminal should never be tolerated. This is a point that was really interesting to me that I saw on a feed after feed after feed of people who I follow for sort of LA-based content. Talking as though the vast majority of illegal aliens are just part of our communities and they're not violent. I don't care. This is the question you ask your friends and family who are not understanding this. Ask them how many American families' lives should be ruined because of illegal alien crime. DUIs where the wrong side of the road driver crashes into a family. Any sort of a murder, rapes and murders someone, like so many of the famous examples we cite at Breitbart all the time. How many of those instances do you tolerate? For me, the answer is simple. It's zero. Not one American family should have their lives ruined by an illegal alien. So then when they hem and haw, which they will, you ask, well, set the number. How many American families' lives should get ruined by illegal alien criminals? Where do you set the number? Make them commit to a number. For me, that number is 0. It is 0. That's a very easy position to take, and that's my position. So I don't see where the flaws are in that argument. We do not tolerate criminals coming into this country at all. And if you tolerate everyone coming into our country, then clearly you tolerate criminals. First night under curfew, which was last night, and with dozens of arrests, and it's like, why are they breaking curfew? This is my point. If you just want to sell mangoes from a mango cart on Hollywood Boulevard, illegally, of course, you don't want people breaking curfew. That's just drawing attention to your stuff. An illegal alien charged with attempted murder for throwing a Molotov cocktail at officers, according to the Department of Homeland Security. So these aren't saints. Many of these people are very bad people. Some are fine, but the ones who are fine will be better off in the shadows. So all of you loudmouths, LaMonica McIver, indicted over storming the ICE detention center, facing 17 years in federal prison. Good. Throw the book at her. And I think this is Alina Habba's district, so I think she's going after her. I played those clips of LaMonica McIver, Congresswoman, physically assaulting ICE. Should not be tolerated. Not all peaceful people. They weren't peaceful for a second. Kobe Bryant mural defaced with his deceased daughter, Gigi Bryant. Who are you convincing illegal alien advocates in LA that you should be torching cars and you should be defacing murals of heroes in the city? Terry Moran, who's a journalist, I think ABC again, got fired for this tweet. The thing about Stephen Miller is that he is the brains behind Trumpism. Yes, he is one of the people who conceptualizes the impulses of the Trumpist movement and translates them into policy. But that's not what's interesting about Miller. It's not brains, it's bile. Miller is a man who's richly endowed with a capacity for hatred. He's a world-class hater. This is a thing that you do. You don't take on any of the arguments, and you don't look at Miller's consistency in his history fighting for these issues, or the fact that he's just trying to enforce the law. You just call him a hater, and this is what is congratulated in left-wing circles. But ABC said it was too much, and they fired him, which is amazing. Terry Moran's always been a bad guy. So clearly, I think national Democrats are getting the picture that you can't keep doing this. It's not going to work for you. I had Misty grab a clip. This is Terry Moran and Andrew Breitbart from 14 years ago. He does the same exact thing he was trying to do to Stephen Miller. He did 14 years ago. So it shows you how long this guy was getting away with at ABC News. Check this out.
52% of those who support the Tea Party say that too much has been made of the problems facing black people in America, compared with 28% of the
Why are you going along with the mainstream media? Why are you going?
So this is where he's talking about the Tea Party, where Andrew used to speak, was sort of a precursor to, I think, the MAGA movement in a lot of ways, and ended up getting kind of taken over by a lot of griftery type people, which was a shame. But it was a genuine grassroots organization against Obama and Obamacare and high taxation and expansive government. And of course, immediately the media acted as though it was racist, particularly against black people, even though there was zero evidence of that.
Why are you going along with the administration's narrative to try and make this about race when there's no evidence to suggest
that's a 2-to-1 difference in opinion?
Racism has nothing to do with the Tea Party movement, so the fact that you're trying to manufacture it is offensive to me.
I'm just asking about a data point.
What did I just tell you about the data points that were crafted during the Monica Lewinsky scandal? When they try and troll and try and find that place that they can stoke and prod to try and create something that doesn't exist from something.
So you don't think it's accurate? You don't think it's accurate that 52% of the people who support the Tea Party think that too much has been made of the problems of black people?
Let's ask the same questions of the people who support the bill. If you're going to tell me that no, let's talk about the people that support the public, not general public that support the actual bill. The AFL-CIO, the SEIU, the people who are going to benefit from this. Let's interview them. Are you telling me the AFL-CIO are a bunch of pristine people who don't have a racial thought one way or the other? This is manufactured. This is why.
It's just such good stuff. Andrew's so great, and he called the shot, but there was no political imperative yet to get a guy fired for just that blatantly racist line of questioning, race baiting, and trying to divide Americans. And this is what they're doing now. They keep trying to divide Americans, and that's where we're at. Here's Maxine Waters. This is what I'm saying about there's a gaslighting campaign going on, that this is not violent, that these are just normal people who just want to sell their mangoes.
And even those who were out of step with what we are advocating, peaceful protest, did not create.
Those of you who are missing the visuals, I'll just describe them straight away. It is violent, smoke bombs, cars torched, Mexican flags flying everywhere, people in masks, very angry people demonstrating and not representing anything she's about to say. So just know that if you're missing those visuals, just know we've got some very dramatic people pelting ICE vehicles. It's truly dangerous stuff for our law enforcement.
And even those who were
smashing windows,
out of step with what we are advocating, peaceful protest, did not create any violence. Nobody was shot. Nobody was killed. Get it in your head. And so when martial law is called, what are you going to say? I missed the point. Don't miss the point, you all. Don't think that somehow, because they called out the National Guard, there was violence. There was no violence. I was on the street. I know. And I went from downtown detention back out into the community, talking to people what happened in Paramount, what happened in Compton, what happened in Inglewood. So, first of all, get it straight. And don't just rely on what you're being told or the few incidents that you saw.
It's all violent, though. That's the whole thing. The whole thing is violent, and they're the ones who are doing the violence. If you could always just say, allow Trump to enforce the law, and we can move on from there. But that's an impossibility. They cannot handle this. They cannot handle this. And so I want to give you a taste of what's going on online. This is some TikTok liberals. These are not people I follow. I follow a lot of people like this, but this is a nice compilation of these liberals on TikTok talking about this. This is what a lot of people are consuming right now in terms of the framing of this crisis.
You know what's so funny? Everyone who felt comfy enough to out themselves that they voted for Trump back in January, they're dead silent right now. Silent.
Apprehending them and taking them away from their families and their jobs and the lives they've built here doesn't bother you, then you're a bad person. And I don't want to be your friend. And I don't care about your opinion.
I say this in the most disrespectful way possible as a first-generation American whose parent is not from this country. If you got here and you got papers and you agree with what's going on right now, fuck you.
If you are a resident of Los Angeles, California, and you have a large platform on this app on the internet, and you have decided, you have made the conscious choice to not speak out against the ICE raids that are taking place in this city right now, the attack that Los Angeles is feeling in this moment, if you're not sticking your head out for your own community, the city of Los Angeles in which you live, that you benefit so much from, if you can't do that, you do not deserve your platform, and maybe you should fucking move.
Okay, there you go. So I've got that was 20% of the clips we got. So why do women do this? For men, Dr. Drew has talked about this a bunch in the past. I think it came up on our interview, which is that the men would do this to try to attract women because they would this is how they would try to get laid, is that they would say all these stupid things. But like, why are women doing it? Why are they out there just acting like we can't enforce laws? So that's what's going on in the city. I think national Democrats don't feel the same way. I think they know there's a problem, and allowing it, just the extent of the rot is so bad, and the immediate violence is just, it's a big deal. And we will keep tracking it at Breitbart.com with all the latest for you. This is not slowing down anytime soon. I got a lot of Newsom clips of him. He's going to sue Trump. I mean, I'll play a couple of these really quick.
Trump and his loyalists, they thrive on division because it allows them to take more power and exert even more control. And by the way, Trump, he's not opposed to lawlessness and violence as long as it serves him. What more evidence do we need than January 6th? Ask everyone. Take time. Reflect.
I mean, just the footage that we have now is just so routine. It's like, I didn't like January the 6th, but it's not the same. I mean, there weren't cars torched. There was, I think, think someone stole a laptop. I think someone moved a podium someplace. The cops killed one of the Trump supporters. It's like, what's he talking about? It's not the same at all. So it's the exception that proves the rule. But Newsom's just running for president. And remember, he cannot backtrack on the stuff he's already said. I got a little bit more.
He's targeting law firms and the judicial branch that are the foundations of an orderly and civil society. He's calling for a sitting governor to be arrested for no other reason than to, in his own words, for getting elected. And we all know this Saturday, he's ordering our American heroes, the United States military, and forcing them to put on a vulgar display to celebrate his birthday.
Yeah, he doesn't like any sort of demonstration of patriotism towards his country. He doesn't like this country. He favors legal aliens. Just know, there's a couple of crucial points here. Newsom's running for president, and he would love to run as the guy who got arrested by Trump. That's big. So just note that. It's really important to him. He wants that. And looking towards June 14th, which is this Saturday, there's going to be protests, counter-protests. We're looking deeply into the funding of these things at Breitbart News, but there's the No Kings thing. Apparently, Christy Walton, who's one of the Waltons from the Walmart family, though unaffiliated with the company, and I think married into the money. So I'm not trying to blame everyone at Walmart. You guys know I'm not a fan of Walmart. It's been with me for a long time. But she's apparently putting up a lot of the money for it. But we could see they would love another summer of love, another protest summer. And I got to tell you what they're not understanding on the left. It's not going to work this time. It's not. The public's moved on. Maybe there are some fringe people on TikTok, but that does not speak for most of the country. Most of the country cannot. You can't just yell swear words at us and change our minds. So, but someone at aloha@alexmarlow.com, explain to me why the women are out there doing that. What does it get them? All right, I want to roll through a few things quickly. We'll have a more balanced show tomorrow, but I want to point a couple of things out. Trump says there's a U.S. trade deal with China. We have some details at Breitbart, but apparently we're getting a bunch of minerals up front, rare earth. He says we're getting a total of 55% tariffs. China's getting 10%. That sounds like a good deal. Apparently, their Chinese students are going to get back into our colleges, which I'm not happy about, but we always knew that was going to be part of the deal anyway. So I can't say I'm shocked by it, but though I would say a little bit disappointed. But China lowering tariffs on U.S. from 125% to 10% seems like we're in the right track. But we'll have more detail for you at Breitbart as it comes out. Again, we don't have all of the deal. We don't have everything in it yet, but what we do have is Trump's truth bombs about it. And it sounds like moving in the right direction, and Trump cutting a big deal with China will, of course, be very helpful to the economy, the stock market, et cetera. We got not tariffs. We got inflation news, CPI, Consumer Price Index, up just 1%, 0.1%. Core CPI up another 0.1%. That's zero inflation. That means there's no inflation going on. And the tariff did not raise consumer prices. John Carney notes that car prices are down, clothing prices are down, shoe prices are down, gasoline is down, durable goods prices are down, smartphone prices are down. So all the lying about the tariffs was just, it just didn't happen. Here's one, I guess. I want to save this one. I'll save this for tomorrow. There's a AI is going to crush publishers, and it's going to be great for Breitbart, but I'll expand on that more tomorrow. Elon and Trump. Elon's apologizing to Trump, but remember, Elon said that Trump's a pedophile and went to Epstein Island and then wanted him impeached. So Trump's not dumb. Trump's going to remember that. Trump's attitude, typically speaking, is he likes when things are transactional. And so if Musk can do something for him, I'm sure Trump will reconcile with Musk to some degree. But Musk really, he kind of apologized for most of the stuff, but he called the guy a pedophile when him impeached. So even if that was just a drug-addled day and a half, those aren't good things to say. So, All right. I think that's good for now. There's a lot more to do. But I got a long list that we'll do tomorrow, but it's good to save some powder. And I'm on the Kirk Show later. It's part of why I got to run, but it's good stuff. Thanks for hitting that subscribe button. Really important to do. Noticing a lot of new subscribers. Thank you for that. Leaving comments, always helpful. Any way to correspond makes the show grow and thrive. And we appreciate you. And I will talk to you tomorrow.